Data security and sanitization is one of the core functions of almost every electronics reuse and recycling facility. Many facilities rely only on physical sanitization, such as shredding, in which the data devices are physically destroyed, rendering data inaccessible. This video covers logical sanitization, also known as data wiping or data erasure, which permanently removes any access to the data on a device while leaving the device itself intact and available for reuse. This video will show how logical sanitization is completed at several different electronics reuse and recycling facilities. And logical data sanitization now extends far beyond the traditional applications of hard drives in laptop and desktop computers, so this video will also examine how logical sanitization is performed at facilities that process mobile devices, tablets, wearables, and other devices. Let's begin with logical sanitization of hard drives. At this facility, hundreds of 5 1/4 and 3 1/2-inch drives can be sanitized simultaneously using these bays to hold the drives, all controlled by sanitization software. After drives are inserted into the bays, they're tested to see if all areas or sectors of the drives can be sanitized. As you can see, of the 8 drives about to be sanitized, 3 of them have failed the testing. Once they're removed from the bays, they're no longer detected by the software and are no longer visible on the sanitization screen. The failed drives are placed in gaylords for shredding within the facility after their controller boards are removed to be processed separately. Meanwhile, the remaining drives are being sanitized and the progress is monitored through this screen. At this facility, drives are also inserted into sanitization bays controlled by software, with the testing and sanitization process visible on these screens. If any of these devices fail testing at this facility, they're sent to a downstream vendor for physical sanitization, where they will be shredded. A sampling of drives that have been logically sanitized are verified to make sure that no data is recoverable. This is done at a separate station and by a different employee at this facility. And after devices have been sanitized and verified, they are scanned to be removed from the system and packed for outbound shipment. Solid-state drives, or SSDs, are increasingly popular on desktop and laptop computers and are the only memory available for tablets and mobile devices. They do not record or playback memory from magnetic media like traditional hard drives, but instead record electrical impulses within billions of transistors on each chip in the drive. Because of this, they need to be sanitized in a different fashion than traditional hard drives, although, as we'll see, some sanitization software now accommodates both hard drives and SSDs simultaneously. And as you can see, SSDs come in a variety of sizes or form factors, from the size of a traditional laptop hard drive to the size of SD cards or even RAM sticks. And by the way, the USB drives or thumb drives that we've used for years are a form of SSD. The M.2 form factor for SSDs is increasingly popular, and because of its size and connector array, it usually requires separate hardware for the logical sanitization process. At this facility, several M.2 SSDs are sanitized simultaneously, each SSD using a thin client computer networked together and under the control of the sanitization software. Each SSD is plugged into the memory slot of the computer and then weighed down to ensure a good connection. Each SSD is tested and rated before the software-controlled logical sanitization process begins. After each SSD is sanitized, its information is added to a summary report, and detailed information about each drive is available for the facility's internal records and the eventual customer. SSDs that fail the testing process are snapped in half and packed for shipment to a qualified downstream vendor for physical sanitization. And the drives that are successfully sanitized are physically marked with a sticker and sorted into boxes by SSD capacity for resale or use in refurbishing. This facility has built a specialized desktop computer with the ability to hold 3 M.2 SSDs at once, running logical sanitization software. Some sanitization hardware and software has the ability to differentiate between SSDs and traditional hard drives. In this example, an SSD drive is placed into a caddy that resembles a 3 1/2-inch SSD drive. It is placed into a bay of this logical sanitization device. A traditional hard drive can be placed in an adjacent bay, and the sanitization software can tell which is which, and will sanitize each drive simultaneously, providing full detailed reports after the successful logical sanitization. Next, we'll discuss logical sanitization for mobile devices and tablets. Most of the software that performs data sanitization on these devices also tests functionality of the devices. We'll feature functionality testing in a future video in this series, but for now we'll focus on eliminating all access to any data. This is usually accomplished with two steps. First, a factory reset of the device that erases all previous settings, including usernames and passwords. Next, software that confirms that a full factory reset has taken place. This is usually part of the device testing process. At this facility, these devices are plugged into a software interface using standard charging cables. When the devices are recognized, the technician goes through a process where they enter as little information as possible on the device. At this point, the device is connected to the internet, but there's no identifying information that connects to the cloud. Then, the testing and wiping software is installed. After the various tests are completed and the device passes those tests, then the device can be sanitized as a final step. When the sanitization is complete, a label is printed and attached to the device. The label's QR code allows a future purchaser to have a complete report on the condition of their device. More videos showing different processes used by electronics reuse and recycling facilities are available in the R2 knowledge base on the SERI website.